Greetings, beloved. I'm Tuli Mashazi and welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, please do press the subscription button as well as the notifications button. We would love to have you on our team. This production was made possible with the help and contributions from Lyricity, a company that offers editing and publishing services. When they are done, all you will say is, "Oh my word," because it will be impressive. Today, I'd like to discuss a topic that I don't know how to say. Maybe it's sensitive for some people, but for me, it's a mysterious topic. It's something I didn't know existed until only recently. And I was actually a victim, but I didn't know that I was suffering from it until I discovered that there was such a thing that people can do. And I know that some people even suffer secondary forms of the same thing because they never knew that this was happening, and so they go on through life and they find themselves being targeted easily by other people. It's called gaslighting. I hear that gaslighting is very common, even though I only just got to know the term recently. I hear that a lot of people go through life believing certain things about themselves and never getting an opportunity to know who they really are because people have bombarded them with information that defines them, so much so that they have not had a chance to discover who they are. So I found this topic very interesting and I thought perhaps I can, delve into it and let's walk through the journey together. In our effort to find ourselves, it is necessary to identify certain things that may have made you who you are. Even I'm including myself in that. I'm a victim of gaslighting, and you'll get to know. I don't want it to be about me. I would rather it be about the concept, and here and there I may give examples using myself. So what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is an abusive practice of mind control that causes someone to distrust themselves or to believe that they have a mental illness. It is so subtle that sometimes the victims are not even aware that they are being gaslighted into a certain frame of perception about themselves. If you ever meet a young girl who believes that she's unlovable, she's not beautiful, that she's not worthy of any good things, you may find out that somebody gaslighted them. They heard that thing again and again until the mind absorbed it and informed them to conform to that belief. So even as they behave as though they don't want to be loved because they have shut that part of their lives. They've convinced themselves that they don't deserve to be loved, they're not worthy to be loved. And so they don't even treat themselves in a way that should make them lovable. They become what I call obnoxious. Obnoxious people, they cause you to dislike them. They repel you, but deep in their hearts, they want to be loved. We'll deal with obnoxious behavior in a different day, but today I just want us to focus on gaslighting. Let me tell you a little bit about my gaslighting life. My life is a gaslighting victim. There are so many positive things that I know about myself, that I have seen in my life. I mean, I was top 5 all my primary school years. I won an award for best English student. I won an award for best public speaking. I was so bold and so confident that I could conduct assembly, something that was kept for teachers. And many learners would wonder how come they give you that opportunity. It was because I had that level of confidence as a young girl. And then life happened. You never know when it starts. But when you sit back, you can see that there was this bright young girl that I was. My teachers called me Jolly. I was always volunteering into activities. I remember the school plays, I'd be taking the lead role. I was out there ready to explore and experience life. And then I remember, when people speak negative things to you, you don't register it the first day. But after a while, you begin to conform, even though you don't remember the first day you heard it. But after a while, you begin to conform. You begin to, align with what you have been hearing being said about you. So I remember being told that I was useless, I was a failure, you have delusions of grandeur. Those words, they kept dripping into my spirit, dripping into my memory. And then my mother would report to my dad. My dad was an absent father, but he tells me he always received reports that I was a problem. I was causing my mother grief. I was making her unhappy. And I try to look back and I wonder, what is it that I did as a child to make her so unhappy that she would not only tell me, but she would also tell others? Because I never drank. I've never drunk all my life. I've never tasted alcohol. I don't want it. It's not my portion. I never disappeared from home. When teenagers get into that age where they just want to date and sometimes they vanish from home, I never did that. If anything, in my home area where I grew up in Luveve, no one knows my boyfriend. They only heard when I was married to my husband. And I never went partying. In fact, the first time I went to a concert was when Lira was playing at Carnival City. Before then, I just loved being at home and at church. But there is the message being spread, not only to me, but to the extended family. She's difficult. She's causing me problems. She's making me unhappy. I wish I could ask her, what is it that I was doing? Because many parents, if you ask them, any child who's sober, who's doing well at school, who doesn't run away from home, is the child to be, is the child you want. In fact, I had neighbors who wished their children were like me. And yet, I was being bombarded with messages that made me believe that I was not good enough. I was not worthy. I was horrible. I was bad. And those messages, without me knowing, they began to shape me. They began to mold me into a certain frame of behavior. I became more shy, more timid, no longer that ready girl, driven, and even the top 5, I slid back from top 5 to just making it and being average and maybe above average sometimes. So I hope you can see that it doesn't have to be a million things being said. Sometimes one thing repeated daily, all the time, it can have the same effect. And it doesn't have to be the entire village talking about you or saying those things. One person can manipulate you into believing what they have said about you. And sometimes it's not even our parents. I know that one young lady I worked with, and she came from a more wealthy background than I. She lived in the suburbs, I lived in the township. And by virtue of that, the township girl will look up to the city girl. And she's the one who used to say, you have delusions of grandeur. And it made me wonder what was so wrong with being ambitious, what was so wrong with wishing for greatness, with wishing for good things. But without realizing it, those words were telling me, limit your ambition, limit your drive for success. You don't deserve it. So gaslighting is actually very impactful. It makes an impact on people. That is why I chose to discuss it. The first time I heard about gaslighting was on a reality TV show this year, actually, not very long back. This year, I heard about gaslighting for the first time. There was this couple that were talking. It was a reality TV show. So this couple, all the time when they had misunderstandings, the one partner would say, you don't have a brain. You are empty here. And all the time she would say that no matter what the argument was about, she had that one statement to say about the partner. You are empty. You are brainless. You she was constantly making that the partner question their mental stability, their mental sanity, their, how sane they were. And I remember the partner saying one time, I actually began to believe that I was stupid. After a while, I began to accept that I was stupid. And you see how painful it can be. So at that point, I realized that when I saw that reality show scene, it's when I realized that I was also a victim of gaslighting, because I also had begun to believe the things I had heard, even though I could not prove it within myself. It can be quite complicated because you are looking at yourself and you see one thing, but somebody else keeps saying something else about you. After a while, you're confused. You're like, okay, so is it something I do that portrays what they say? Is it something in me that they're able to see and I can't see? So you begin to live in this state of, you're in between. You don't know who you really are. Because while you have your own truth, there's other people bringing a truth that you cannot verify within yourself. And so in the long run, when you live in that state of constantly being bombarded with voices that tell you you are not what you think you are, it causes other complications. So let's look now at the effects of gaslighting. The first one is anxiety. Because you are sitting there doing something, but you quickly remember someone is going to say something about this, and you know it's not going to be a positive thing. And you can actually become a neurotic, paranoid, because you want to do things, but there's this possibility that's constantly looming in your head that someone's going to disagree, someone's going to tell you you wasted your time, it wasn't worth your effort, what did you think you were doing, who do you think you are, things like that. So it can cause anxiety. So if you know somebody who has an anxiety disorder, perhaps they were gaslighted to a point where they are living in between two characters. The character they think they are and the character that has been spoken into existence by the gaslighters around them. And the next thing is depression. It can be quite depressing to know that no matter what you do, you will always be described in this way. It's depressing. I remember feeling depressed in my marriage. My husband used to say to me that I was cheating. He said that all the time. No matter what I did, I was cheating on him. I would go to work, have a meeting after work, stay over for an hour or two in a meeting. When I came home, I was with a boyfriend. If I went to the mall after work just to take a break, sometimes work is hectic. And you come out of work and you're like, I need a breather. I just need to breathe in. Let me go just take a walk around the mall, maybe drink ice cream, drink a milkshake, and then come home. He would say, you were with a boyfriend. You were with a boyfriend. It was something, after a while, I began to wonder, is it because I behave like an unfaithful person? Are there behavioral patterns that I display? Perhaps I look like I have a fast eye. Perhaps I smile too much. Perhaps I dress, So before I knew it, I was underdressing, unhappy, and confined at home, trying to make him stop saying those things. But he was not going to stop, because he was trying to break me into a certain kind of person so that he could then manage. Sometimes you are so strong, you are so bold, you are so ambitious, and some people can't handle how big you are, your personality, and they would rather chop you to pieces so that then you are consumable. That's what a gaslighter does. Their intention is to consume you, consume who you think you are, and present you with another person, one they can handle, one they can deal with, they can manipulate and do whatever they choose with. So I went into depression because it seemed to me that there was nothing I could do to make him stop saying the things he was saying about me, the descriptions he was giving of me. And the third thing is trauma. It can bring trauma. Some people believe that they will never make it in life because they were told from childhood, they went through life, they went through adulthood. I know a man that he worked until his family left. He was a millionaire, but he was not stopping. He was just always at work, never making time for the family, until one day they say, the wife wrote a letter and said, I wish you many more millions, but I want part of it. He would later confess that his father used to tell him, you will never amount to anything. And so his father had since passed on, but the voice was still there, traumatizing him, torturing him. And so he was constantly trying to prove his father wrong, to prove that he could make $1 million. He made $1 million and another million and another million, but he couldn't stop because the more he worked, the more the father spoke in his head. So he was just a broken man because of the effects of the words that his father had said to him. And the next thing is that it can cause low self-esteem. A lot of people who think very little of themselves have been told something. There's no child who is born looking down on themselves. I can guarantee you that every child is happy. Every child is free. They smile. I look at my daughter. She is missing 2 teeth at the front. She smiles the biggest smile. And I know that if one day somebody says something to her about that gap, it will vanish. And then she'll begin to have low self-esteem. She'll begin to think that perhaps if she had the teeth, then maybe. And that thing, the problem with low self-esteem is that even if you have added all the things that you thought you could add so that you feel better esteemed, sometimes the hollow in you is still there. I know people who have bleached their skin because they thought they were too dark to be loved. And now you're bright. Everyone looks at you and they like how bright you are. But inside, you still don't think you're good enough. I know people who thought that if they wore the longest Brazilian weave, then they would feel complete. So they did that. But the thing in you that was broken down, if it never gets to be built, you will still have low self-esteem. I even know people who have transgendered because they thought maybe if I am a girl, maybe if I am a boy, then, not all transgender by the way, but there are some whose motive came from a place of low self-esteem. And they thought perhaps if I fill up this physical thing, fill up that physical thing, perhaps I'll feel better, but they could never feel better. Some are wearing hips and filling up hips, filling up a bust, filling up the nose, but still the low self-esteem. It's how you were taught to believe about yourself. It doesn't matter what people say out there. They'll say, oh wow, you're so beautiful. You will argue with them, no, I'm not. Because inside, somebody convinced you that you're not beautiful. That no matter what you do, that voice is still speaking inside you. And then the next thing is secondary victimization. Secondary victimization is where perhaps a child was gaslighted by their mother and they began to have low self-esteem, anxiety, depression. Those qualities combined, they make you susceptible. So wherever this child goes, they happen to meet people who echo the voices that they have heard. Because people see, you know how they say, you teach people how they must receive you. So if you are going out to the world and you're projecting low self-esteem, that's what they receive of you. And then they say the same thing. And then you begin to think, so perhaps my mother was right, because my mother said I was nothing. Here I am now, out in the world, trying to make it, and I meet total strangers, and they still tell me you are nothing. That is secondary gaslighting, where it's now continuing because you are now carrying an image that makes it easy for people to play around with your mind, to mess around with your mind. They can tell that you are not solid, you are not complete, you are not sure of yourself, and people will mess up with you. That is secondary victimization. And then there's this one. They say long-term effect of gaslighting is that it can lead to memory loss. Some form of memory loss. I remember going through something like that because my husband was the kind of man he was really making sure he broke me down to small pieces, and he would deny everything. If he took a cup and put it there and I asked, what were you drinking? He would say, nothing, I never drank. And I said, but there's a cup there. He said, no, that wasn't me. And I would go into this journey of, so it must have been me. So when did I drink? What was I drinking? I went into this messed up state where I couldn't remember things because sometimes maybe I did it, maybe I didn't. I would try hard to retrace my day so that I can be sure it wasn't me, and I couldn't. Anything, he would just deny anything. He would take a nail clipper, clip his nails, leave it there, and I'd say, but wait, you could have put it back where you found it. He'd say, what? I never clipped my nails. And that would mean I'm the one who took out the nail clipper. And I'm thinking hard, what was I clipping? I haven't clipped my nails in a week. I was in this state of, and I then began to forget a lot of things. I was just forgetting things, constantly running late because I forgot to pick up the child from school. I forgot that I needed to get this or that. It went into that state. It messes up your mind when you have this person who's constantly feeding you information that you cannot prove. All right. And then lastly, one constantly questions what is wrong with themselves. If you hear the messages of the gaslighter long enough, you begin to question. You begin to think that it's you. It's hard to believe that somebody can be responsible for shaping you, for making you into something. And so we quickly make it our own personal issue. So you're thinking, what's wrong with me? Why do I do this? Why do I make this person, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's your relative, maybe it's a co-worker. It can be anyone really. Their words, when repeated, they can hit into your mind. And without knowing, you begin to really succumb to the pressure of those words. So they can cause you to constantly question. So you feel like maybe you shouldn't do anything. People are going to a party, you're like, what if I go there and I'm not dressed good enough? You're questioning yourself. What if I go there and the crowd is not my kind? What if, you begin to think that there's something wrong with you, that you don't fit in, that you're not good enough, that it makes you shrink into a corner where you are no longer living your life freely and happily and boldly and confidently. So gaslighting has serious effects. Let me just go back through them. Anxiety, depression, trauma, low self-esteem, secondary victimization, memory loss, and constantly questioning if there's anything wrong with you. I remember thinking that maybe I was disabled because my mother used to constantly say, "Islima." Islima in my language means you are crippled. So I would wonder, I would look at myself, I would check how I walk, because I was convinced that I was crippled. She would say it all the time, and she even went to relatives and told them that I was not okay in the head, and therefore they must just, know how to tolerate me. In the meantime, she was trying to protect her own secret, how I was sexually abused. But she made it my problem. So now I had other issues besides being a victim of sexual abuse. I was now a victim of gaslighting, because I was no longer dealing just with the trauma of being sexually abused and having an STI in the process, but I was now dealing with, am I even a human being? Am I even normal? Am I like everybody else? So it's quite a deep thing. So let's just go through general things that you should know about gaslighting. General things that you should know. Number one, sometimes it's not done deliberately. That is a thing I have discovered. Sometimes it's not deliberate. Some people grow up in environments that teach them behaviors and how to communicate. And as children, we absorb That is why some people will tell you, we only eat this, we don't eat that. But nobody told them that this is the diet for these kind of people, or it's what they grew up watching, they absorbed it, they acquired the taste, and now they have also carried on and they have absorbed and they've taken it and adopted it as their own culture and behavior. So sometimes it's not deliberate. Maybe this child grew up being told those words and they think that that is how to communicate. So they just find a victim and they start gaslighting them without really thinking and deciding and targeting to say this one is gonna, it's not something they think, it's not deliberate, it's not intentional. Sometimes it's just something that happens because other people have done the same thing to them and they never knew it was wrong, so they absorbed it and they carried on. And then there's a difference between manipulation and gaslighting. Because as we say that gaslighting is a form of manipulation, but there's a difference. When people manipulate you, they are trying to influence your behavior. And when people gaslight you, they are trying to remove your mind from what it is now into what they want it to be. They can shape your thinking patterns. They can shape your belief systems. It's not just behavioral. It's deeper than that. So gaslighting is much deeper and much more detrimental than manipulation. A manipulator can just give you gifts to make you think they are nice, to convince you that they love you. But a gaslighter will make you deny your identity and take on what they have told you that you are. If you were once a bright student and somebody kept saying you are such a useless, dull-minded dimwit, after a while you stop making an effort to succeed because somebody has convinced you that you are not that successful person that you are, that intelligent person that you are. So sometimes we need to know the difference. Gaslighting and manipulation are not the same. And then number 3, gaslighting does not always involve anger or intimidation. It can be so subtle, so sweet. Usually couples, one of them is gaslighted. Some couples, not all. You know this man who makes you believe that you are the sweetest. Oh my darling, I love you. You're the most beautiful. In the meantime, he's got girlfriends all over the world. He even has kids all over the world. But he says these beautiful things that make you think you are the best. And no matter what people tell you, they'll try to say, that man, he's mistreating you. That man doesn't respect you. But he has made you believe that you are the angel, the star in his eyes. And he has brought you to believe this lie that works for him. So not all gaslighting is harsh and painful. Some of it is so sweet that it's only those who are looking on from the outside who can tell that this one is not normal. Things are not okay. I know a story about a parent who made their child believe that they were critically ill because they had a psychological problem. They wanted to skip work, and so they would always say the child is not feeling well. And they would take the child to the doctor and say, this time she's got this pain and she's got that pain. And that child actually grew up believing that they were an invalid. So there's no pain, there's no harsh treatment, there's no insulting or intimidation, but the child is gaslighted. They don't know that they're actually fit as a fiddle, they are normal, they are healthy, there's nothing wrong with their health, but the mother is just going through her own psychological problems. So not all gaslighting is full of anger and intimidation. Sometimes it's very sweet and subtle, and only the onlookers can tell that one day has been hit, but they can't see. And then the last one, it can lead to momentary memory loss that I've already mentioned before. Sometimes victims don't know whether things are really happening or imagined. When gaslighting is going on for too long, the victim does not know the reality from fiction. They just don't know, and that makes them easily manipulated and vulnerable to any other form of abuse because they don't remember. They don't even know how to link stories and put stories together and decide on make a decision. They can't. They are incapable. They're disempowered. So it can be disempowering. It can lead to momentary memory loss, which can lead to somebody being disempowered, stripped of their decision-making powers, stripped of their confidence to determine their own life and how they want to go on in life. And then let's go to the recovery plan. Should you, as I was talking, maybe you saw yourself. You saw yourself. I remember the day I saw that little, it was not a long thing, it was probably 3 minutes. At that point, when I saw myself that, wow, this is what has happened to me. I so much believe the things I have heard, to a point where I would say them out, thinking that, you see, we love our parents and we trust them. And when they say things about us, we take them. It's hard to reject the words that come from your parents. It's not easy. Even if it's a curse, it stays because there's some power that they have over us because they gave birth to us. They have a level of influence. They are over us. They are above us. So when I discovered that, I began to search, okay, now that I know that I'm not useless, I don't have delusions of grandeur, I have as much a right to aspire for greatness as anybody else. I am not a failure in life. I am not a problem person. When I had seen that, I had to do something to bring myself back to myself. Bring myself to a place where I can discard this belief, this package of beliefs that have been thrown at me and I've absorbed and adopted them. I had to now make a plan. So number one, the recovery plan. How do you get over that gaslighting that has been done to you? Number one, don't take responsibility for other people's behavior. I will never condone what my mother did, the things she said. I will never condone what that colleague that I used to work with, when she said I had delusions of grandeur, I will not condone. I will not even justify and say, she said it because she thought, no, it was wrong. She had no right to do that. She had no right to speak to me the way she did. Even my own mother, she had no right to demean me and break me down with her words. I'm not going to take responsibility for their behavior. I'm not going to justify, I'm not going to defend them. I'm not going to condone what they did. It was wrong. That is the first step of taking your power back. Accepting that you can't go around justifying, explaining, and protecting people. If they are wrong, they are wrong. Number two, don't sacrifice yourself to spare other people's feelings. For a long time, it was hard for me to confront my mother about the things she had said and done to me, because I was worried I would break her heart, I would wound her feelings, perhaps she would feel disrespected. I took all the pain upon myself, thinking that I could solve it maybe through prayer, through counseling. But I came to a point where I realized that there was no need to spare people's feelings. Even the young lady that I used to work with, I told her once, yeah, you said I had delusions of grandeur, you were wrong. I didn't want to keep sparing people's feelings, because when you spare people's feelings, you are shrinking yourself out of their space. And before you know it, you are backed out in a corner. You no longer have space to live, to manipulate, to exist. Because whenever you are supposed to, when you confront people, you make room for yourself. You are taking your space. But if you choose not to confront, but to walk away, you are shrinking your space. So don't spare people's feelings. If people are hurting you, say it. You're hurting me, stop it. Don't spare their feelings, even out of respect. Sometimes it's a respectable person, and you can see what they're doing is not right. Don't spare their feelings. Take your space. Take ownership of your life. Number three, remember your truth and stick to it. I had to remind myself, Tuli, you used to pass at school. You are intelligent. I had to remind myself, remember how you used to be so outspoken. You used to do well in public speaking. You are good. Remember how you used to participate in drama and you take leading roles. You're great. You can act. You know, I had to remind myself, and I had to start speaking my own truth. I'm not a cheat. I don't cheat on, I don't doubt. In fact, I've never cheated in any relationship. When I'm with someone, that's the person I'm with. When it's over, we end it, we move on to the next one. But I had received this information and I needed to re-establish the truth according to me, not according to people. One of the things my mother used to say was that, you can never be an athlete. Let the runners run, not you. You are not a runner. Don't run, you run like a duck. It's not a harmful thing. So we laughed about it and I even said, no, I'm not a runner. But I am a runner actually. If I want to, I can. I remember when I was in high school, I did have the potential, but for some reason, because I believed what my mother said, I'd just come maybe fourth, and they need number 1, 2, 3, and I'd be fourth, or I'd stop halfway through the race, because there was that thing in me that said, you're not a runner, so don't try too hard. You may not go far. So now re-establish your own truth. Speak your own truth, remember your own truth, and then stick to it. That way you are chasing out the lies that were whispered to you. You are disempowering them, you are uprooting them out of your system. So re-establish, remember your own truth, and then stick to it. And then number 4, do not argue with a gaslighter. Don't go into arguments with a gaslighter. If they say, you are lame, you are stupid, you are what? Just walk away. Because if you try to say to them, no, I'm not, they will say something more. That more will break you down even worse. If they said you're stupid and you stood in front of them to convince them there and then, word for word, it ends up ugly. So choose rather to not engage. Don't lock horns with them. Find a more different way, because they love arguments. They love to tell you to your face what they think. So when you disengage and you walk away, you disempower them. They will not have a hold on you for long if you keep, avoiding them. Okay? And then remember, you're not alone. You're not alone. There is so much support around you. One of the things I suffered was believing that nobody could understand me. Believing that I was unique, so different that I couldn't fit in anywhere. And that made me feel all alone. Until I realized, no, there's people out there who will believe in you, who will support you, who will encourage you. So stop thinking that you're all alone. You're not. There's help. If you can't find it among your people that you live with, there's psychologists, there's social workers, there's ministers, church ministers. Find one that works for you. You're not alone. Don't think that you will go through it alone. There's support. You just need to find it and be willing to be supported. And then number 6, do not blame yourself for what you went through. One of the things that we do very easily is thinking that it was our fault, that things happen. Maybe if I had spoken, then they would have. If I had dressed differently, maybe they would not have said that I was a bad dresser. If I had, done this, then maybe. No, don't blame yourself. You are just piling a burden on top of another burden. Don't blame yourself for what they did. It's not your fault. It was never your fault. It was never about you. It was them and their problems, and they targeted you. You had nothing to do with it. Don't take it and blame yourself and think that you could have done something differently in order to. Sometimes people just act out of their own stupid, twisted thinking. It's not about you. And then number 7, forgive yourself. There's a level of guilt that comes with being a victim of anything. Even if you had your things stolen in your house, there's something that makes you feel guilty, that maybe you were responsible for it. So forgive yourself so that that guilt can go away. What worked when I discovered that I had been gaslighted, is I began to find affirming scriptures in the Word of God. Like Jeremiah chapter 1, before you were made in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I ordained you a prophet to the nations. I spoke, God knew me. Those ones who describe me, they never knew me. They never created me. They never made me. God knew me. I had to re-establish that. I spoke it to myself. Number 2, Psalm 139 verse 14, I am wonderfully and fearfully made. I'm beautiful. I'm worthy of love. I had to speak that to myself. In Jeremiah 31 verse 3, God says, I have loved you with an everlasting love, and I have drawn you to myself. God loves me. So even if the abuser didn't love me, the gaslighter didn't love me, the neighbor didn't love me, the colleague didn't love me, God loves me. And He's greater than all these people that I've mentioned. So speak positive things to yourself. I would stand in the mirror. I love my mirror. I always say when I joke, my mirror is saved, because that's where I have practiced how posture. I have practiced how to formulate speeches. I have practiced things. My mirror is saved, guys. People say stories about how monitoring spirits, they can monitor your life through the mirror. Don't keep a mirror in your house. I want the monitoring spirits to get saved. They will watch me on my mirror reciting scripture, speaking positive things to myself, and they will repent and get saved. That's what I say to myself. I'm not going to live life in fear. I love mirrors. I'm going to have mirrors. I'm not going to stop having mirrors because somebody says monitoring spirits are going to follow you. Let them follow. Jesus said, disciples, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. Let them follow, and that God will turn their lives around because they will see the greatness of God through me. And then, so those are the 8 things that you can do. I just want to go back through them so that we remember, when you have seen that you are a victim of gaslighting, when you have seen how terrible it has affected you, don't take responsibility for other people's behaviors. Number 1. Number 2, don't sacrifice yourself to spare their feelings. Number 3, remember your truth and stick to it. Number 4, don't argue, disengage. Number 5, remember you're not alone. Number 6, don't blame yourself for what you went through. Number 7, forgive yourself and forgive your gaslighter. Number 8, speak the word of God to yourself. Now, I want to speak as I end. I want to speak to the gaslighters. Yeah. I don't know if people ever do that, speaking a word to the abusers. I'm speaking a word now to the gaslighters. Not much. I just want to say, number 1, stop it. If you know you are that kind of a person who likes to say words to people that you cannot prove, but just say them so that you break them down, stop it. You can't stop it. If you are choosing to open your mouth, choose to open your mouth and speak beautiful words. Don't break people down. There's nothing to gain from that. If you want to exert power over people, be powerful enough so that they submit to you. Don't suppress and oppress and break people down. Grow, raise yourself, multiply yourself, increase yourself so that you are so influential that people just willingly submit to you. Number 2, think about the effects of your behavior on those victims. Think about the people you love, the people you invest your life for. Do you think you would be happy to hear that someone is telling your child that they're stupid, that they're not worth it, that they are going to be a failure in life, that they are a prostitute, that they are ugly? Do you think you would be happy to hear that said to your child? Never mind yourself, but the ones you care about. So think about those things and stop it. And then number 3, get help. A lot of these people who abuse other people are themselves hurting. It says, Joyce Meyer says, hurt people hurt people. Wounded people wound people. So if you are the kind of person who's going around telling people words to break them down, to victimize them, to twist their minds, get help. There is help available. Go, commit yourself and say, I need help. I'm always breaking people down. You know, gaslighters sometimes target those ones who look strong and they look like they have everything figured out, because it annoys them, because they don't have that. They want to break that person down. So if you are that kind of a person, get help. There's help available for you. And then number 4, find something to play with. Some people do it not because they are hurting or anything, they just like to twist people around. Get a hobby. Get something you can do with yourself that will make you happy. Not victimizing people, not going around breaking people's feelings, not going around wounding people's personalities and people's minds. That's not a good thing to play with. Find a hobby. And I hope I have said enough for today. Thank you so much, and I hope it has helped you. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you think about what I spoke about. We're going to talk about other things in future, but I just thought I should address the issue of gaslighting, because even now I'm still trying to get over the voices of the people who broke me down with their words. I'm thanking God that I'm not where I used to be, but there's still quite a mile to go, and God by His grace will carry me through. Thank you so much. Till next time, God bless.